Hello, everybody. Test, test, test. Make sure you guys can hear me. Working with some new software today. Okay. Testing 1, 2. Hello. Okay, got it. Hmm. All right. Okay, so Devil Dog, do I call you Devil Dog or D Dog? Because I was calling you Devil before and you didn't like that. So tell me, because I know what Devil Dog means. It's not satanic. But tell me, tell me what I call you. And I put a poll up here, guys. I put a poll. So if I'm gonna put this, I'm gonna start putting this up every class for the live people. And if you are new, then let me know. So because I want to know if I'm gonna be able to tell by the numbers, but I want to kind of have an idea of what we've got. D Dog. Okay. Okay, you got it. If I slip, please don't hold it against me. But I will strive to make sure that I get it correct. So, we're using I'm using a new software called StreamYard today, and we're going to see how this works. Uh, I figured as much. I'm very interested to hear when you find out about the books. D-Dog, I'm really interested to hear that. Did you scan them or did you scan them yourself, or did you, or were they given to you scanned? All right. So
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, War Hamster.
And I need to switch to YouTube so I can read the chat, right?
Actually, I don't know. I don't know. I think you should be able to read the chat from StreamYard.
Okay. Yeah,
Doug
we
will
got some
actually
comment.
also be
Yep.
able to read the chat from StreamYard. You,
Yeah, we got D-Dog in there already. That's Michelle. We got a few
yep.
people in there. What's the URL so I can send this to people? Is it the same one I just logged in on, or?
Here, I'll send it to you. I don't know if this is everybody in the chat or not. So I just sent it to you within the chat. Everybody may see it.
Oh, that's the YouTube one. Okay.
Right. So the good news is, um, is that people can see your icon now.
Yes.
You guys missed last week's icon. It was priceless.
Is that the same one I used yesterday?
Yes. I did talk to Doug a little bit earlier, and he is Tracy's in the house. Doug's going to like this because he's going to actually get to see the chat now.
Yeah, we'll distract him.
Yeah, that's not hard to do. Yes, TJT people are waking up in record numbers.
So I am unable to type anything because the chat box goes to the bottom of my screen. I wonder how to fix that.
Maybe maximize your window.
I don't think that's it. No, in fact.
Hello, D. You're not getting notifications, D. When you say you're not getting notifications, elaborate, because I don't know what that. No, I'm talking to one of the people in the group. She said she's not getting notifications. So what I'm probably going to do is I'm probably going to bring us in the 3-person configuration where Doug is the main, and then you and I will be in the smaller boxes.
Whatever floats your boat.
Well,
I'm just happy to be on screen.
YouTube's not notifying you. Well, I don't know. I don't really know how to get that. I don't think YouTube notifies you. I just don't know. I think you just have to know that at 3:00 on Tuesdays it's Constitution, or I say 3:00 Pacific, wherever you are. Yep.
There you go.
Welcome back.
Well, now I can chat. Oh, that's private chat. You have to go to comments. I don't get a chat box, so I cannot participate in chat with this. Oh, it's because I'm not logged in on the chat this week.
You're not logged in where?
I'm not logged into StreamYard, so it won't let me. I can do private chat, but I can't see the comments. I cannot because I'm not logged.
So you're going to have to go to
Yeah,
you're going to have
we'll
you're
do
going
it
to have to
next
go to
week.
YouTube.
I can do that. I've
Mhm.
got already other people there. Yeah.
Well, you're in the YouTube. You're a moderator. Which means you're able to delete. Oh, come on.
Well, the problem is YouTube's got me signed in under my real name.
Doug said he might be a couple minutes late. Oh. So how's it going, everybody? I got let's see here. How many new people do we have today? We have so it says 22%. So if you're new, where are you? If you're new and you're here, where are you from? Tell me where you're from. What part of the country? We got 47 watching, which is about standard. Sheila's in Connecticut. And Darren, hey peoples. Annie is in Asheville. Newhurk in West Virginia. Sean, nice to meet you, sir. And for the people that are new, how did you find us? How did you find the what what got you here? Did you see me on Nino? Did you see me on Dan with the thing that we're doing with the glitch in the matrix? What did Doug send you? Did the war hamster send you? Oh, very nice, Annie. Thank you for that. Sean, nice. Nino. Thank you, Erica. Hello, Deborah from Georgia. And Martha from Ohio. And Nino. I had a lot of fun with that show I did with Nino. In fact, when we're done with this today, I'm going to be on Nino's for part 2.
Yeah, what time are you going to go live with that? Since I'm not going to be able to get to Alphas since we'll go over. I have to watch him on replay. So what time are you going live?
I don't know if we're going live. That's up to Nino. But I'm recording with him at 4:30.
Gotcha.
So
make sure you give Alpha's podcast with Scott McKay shout out.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
That's going to be an excellent thing to watch.
Yes, it will.
If we weren't
well,
doing
it's
this,
I one of the pieces of advice that I gave to Scott was to go back and go back to the things that really made him what he is, because he was a teacher for a long time. He did a lot of stuff. If you, because I binge watched the vast majority of his shows that he did on Revolution Radio, and he did some amazing content when nobody even knew who he was. So, um, he's anyway. He's I suggested that he go back and go through some of that material and revive it, because there's so much good stuff there. So
did you read that comment from Sheila Wilson?
I did.
Yeah, that's cool. Found us on Telegram.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on Telegram, but it's such a busy site. I just no way I can keep up. I'll go through all my notifications, and I only follow like 3 or 4 people, and there's like 350 things to read every day. There's just no way I can keep up and participate.
Yeah, that's Madeline does that. Uh, she's on Telegram a lot.
Yeah, I think that's a full-time job.
It is. That's one of the reasons why I kind of just like you. I kind of just I tuned it out. I tuned it out. It was just so much. It's so much. But in all honesty, man, there's some of the best information that's shared on Telegram because it's not censored.
Yeah.
There's just so much to sift through. It's impossible to do that.
That's why I've got all the, I've got maybe 30 people on there that I follow or friends, and then I've got maybe 3 people that aren't muted. So, and then a lot of those, we were the audit guys from last year. The audit information on Telegram is fantastic. Guys
Yeah.
like Nick Moseder, Kaneko the Great,
Mm-hmm.
the Hizzy. Those guys are all really good.
Tracy from South Dakota. Hello.
How do,
Eric
how do you
S.
know
is
that's not
last check.
how do you
Maybe
know
that
that's
one.
not San Diego?
This is true. Tracy, are you South Dakota or San Diego? Because it says SD, and we have a hamster in the house who is very partial to the San Diego moniker.
Considering that's where I live.
And guys, just FYI, Doug said he was going to be a little bit late. I didn't think he was going to be this late, but he'll be here. He did call me and let me know that he was coming.
Let's get a show of hands from the chat. How many people have watched our Glitch in the Matrix
That's a
podcast?
good idea. Has anybody seen the glitch in the Matrix? The Warhamster and I do with Dan Radio Style and Alpha. Anybody seen that? South Dakota. Well, that's Ronald Pogue. I'm guessing. Did I say that correct? Pogue.
Now, that was your word of the week last week. Pogue was your word of the week, wasn't it?
Yeah, POG.
People other than grunts.
People other than grunts.
There's Renee.
I
Hi,
got
Renee.
that. What's that?
Renee's watched the. She said yes, she's watched the glitch. Renee's a San Diego friend. In fact, that email I forwarded to you earlier today, that was from her.
If you guys go to glitch, oh, no, sorry. If you go to Untold History channel or untoldhistory.us, it takes you right to my Rumble channel, and you can see it there.
I'll link
We
mine.
all
I'll link.
have, yeah, we all have. I still have yet to upload the one that we did yesterday, but I think Alpha did, and so did Dan.
Dan got it up today. Alpha's is not yet. I got mine up last night.
It was you that got it up last night. Okay.
Yeah, but I got I'm like 180 views. Dan puts it up this morning. He's already at 1,400.
Nice.
He's got a pretty good following. Dan does.
Oh, Doug is here. Add to stream. There we go. He doesn't have his
Well, it's been a while. Hang on a second.
background.
Dougie.
So we get to see your library.
Well, I've got the background here somewhere. I just gotta put it on. Of course, dogs are out there barking and stuff. So, but yeah, I just it's funny because I was coming in and that's not the right one. There we go.
Are you logged into StreamYard, Doug?
Probably no, because it's not using my settings. But I just sat down
I'm
with the
gonna
link.
I'm gonna remove you from the studio here for a second. He should be able to figure. Oh, dang it! I actually kicked him out. Stuck on it.
I still see him in YouTube.
Yeah, but that's because there's a lag. I gotta call him real quick. 1 second. Sorry, guys. Technical difficulties because we're trying something new. We feel like this is going to be better.
Trial and error.
Indeed.
Yeah, one of these months I'll actually be technologically proficient once I get that green screen going. Tell you what, the difference in the quality from the first couple podcasts when I didn't have a headset compared to now. Yeah, I understand why you guys were barking at me for that. The headset comes in so much better. Of course, the microphone's so sensitive. If I fidget at all, it sounds like there's a duck.
I couldn't hear you because I'd take my headset off so I could talk to Doug. Sorry for the delay, guys. 54 watching. That's more than normal.
The channel is growing. Are you wearing your duh hat? I didn't notice.
I am.
Excellent.
Can you not see me?
Well, no, you were looking just a second ago. I couldn't. You were looking up.
I think I'm just gonna add him to the stream and we're gonna go because we're already 10 minutes late and I'm not gonna. I'm just go, Doug. We'll fix this for next week.
Oh yeah, yeah. You know, I didn't have a chance. I got in later than I expected. You know, it's funny because when I hit Winchester Road, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be 5 or 10 minutes early, and then, well, Winchester Road, if you know anything about the area. But I mean, and I swear it was buses with flashing red lights, women pushing the buggies across the street. I mean, you name it, it got in the way. But good to be here.
All right, so let's jump right in, guys. Welcome to the Mr. Constitution channel, and we are today we are talking about Article 1, Section 8, finishing up Article 1, Section 8. So I will I'm gonna let you jump right into it, Doug, because we're late.
All right, yeah, no, it's good to see you guys. Apologize, it's a little late. I have a class I do in Fallbrook on Tuesday mornings, and then students like take me out to lunch, and normally I leave at 2. And that gives me enough time. And I'm sitting there and I'm having lunch. I'm like, oh, let's see what time it is. 2:15. Oh no. So, you know, one of those things. But anyway, so where we left off, we had just started Article 1, Section 8, as a matter of fact. And hopefully everybody hears me just fine. The mic's working well and all that. I hear you okay, Mr.
Doug,
Ron.
are you logged into StreamYard?
Yeah.
Okay, so do you see the chat?
Yeah.
Do you see the people in the chat?
No.
Okay, so we're gonna have to fix that.
Yeah, I do. Okay, now I do. Okay, I had on private chat. Yeah, comments. Okay, yeah.
But that's actually so with StreamYard, we're actually syncing this so now you can actually see the comments when they come in.
All right, very good. And of course, this is going straight to YouTube Live also.
This is going to YouTube, yes.
Yeah, and on our station and our channel. Yeah, I have my background set on. I use StreamYard sometimes for YouTube videos when I want to do them live. I just want to get them done, walk out the door, and be done with it. And I don't want to do a whole lot of editing. So I do them every once in a while. My daily dose videos, when I was doing them, was through StreamYard. But I just hadn't had a lot of time to do videos lately. But anyway, all right. So Article 1, Section 8, we had talked about the power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises last week. That's right. They do have the authority to tax you, but it wasn't supposed to be a direct tax. It's an indirect tax. States paid it directly, and then the states would get the money from you later. By doing it this way, the states were able to go over the budget to verify that the budget was constitutional and so on and so forth. And so now you've seen that has changed, and it's no longer the case. 16th Amendment changed that. And so now we go to, then it says, now I want to, they'll read it in context, because I want you to understand the context here of what we're getting ready to go into. The Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises, to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. So the purpose of the taxes is to pay the debts, provide for the common defense, and general welfare of the United States, which is everything else. But to create a situation where they're following their authorities and a condition of all's well is created. Notice that the general welfare clause does not say something like you can make laws if it's for the general welfare. That's not
Right.
what it was intended to be. It's
But
a
that's what it's
condition that's met, and it's something that happens if you're, collecting taxes and doing your job, then the general welfare will be met. It is not an excuse to do whatever you want. The general welfare clause is one of the most misused clauses in the Constitution. Now, how do I know what they meant other than just the language here? How do I know? I mean, surely, they discussed it somewhere, and they did. Madison's notes, when he took the notes during the convention, talks about it. But the best explanation for the general welfare clause, the best way to understand what they originally meant, came from James Madison when he was president of the United States. In 1817, and you can look this up. In fact, if you go to douglasvgibbs.com/library and look up the box that says historical documents, the text of this will be there. In 1817, Congress proposed what was called the bonus bill. It was a public works bill that would have the federal government using their federal money to fund for improvement the infrastructure, more specifically boatways and roadways. It was an infrastructure bill. James Madison vetoed it for the reason of that it's not constitutional. In fact, in his veto, he writes, hey, sounds like a good idea, but I find no authority in the Constitution for us to do this. And Congress's response was, and in their original argument was, well, we have the authority because it's for the general welfare of the United States and because military equipment will also use these roads. Sounds like someone you know, don't it?
Yeah.
In fact, it was a particular group that used the same argument back in the 50s, but Eisenhower was not a constitutionalist, so he signed the Interstate Highway Act. Now, I'm not saying I don't believe there should be an infrastructure. I'm not saying that we should be able to have bridges and boatways and roads and freeways and interstates and all that. I'm just saying it's none of the federal government's business. It's not their authority to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's up to the states. Well, gosh, Doug, if it was that left up to states, we wouldn't have a federal highway system. We'd have something. You don't think they'd come up with the idea that, maybe these little dirt roads ain't working?
Well, what did they do prior to the to the
They took
Interstate
care
Act?
of their own roads.
Right.
The only authority, and it's later on in this section, that the federal government has regarding roads is to establish post roads. But even once they're established, it's up to the states to maintain them. And someone says, well, Doug, gosh, well, what if the state doesn't maintain their roads? Their citizens won't get, the goods they need, and when they ask me that and they say that, they're saying it with the idea that if the federal government doesn't do something, it doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And my first response is, well, if the citizens of a state, the residents of a state are not getting things, if the goods are not moving, the people are going to complain. Hey, I need my Amazon order or whatever. And so the state is going to be pressured to do the infrastructure, to take care of the roads.
So this brings me to think of the Los Angeles train situation going on right now, the train yards up there.
Okay.
How they're getting robbed left and right. And your buddy, Mr. Newsom, saying, boy, I wish someone was in charge that could do something about that.
Yeah, that's almost as funny as the Sotomayor comment lately about, I don't understand how some people think the federal government doesn't have the authority for mandates, but states do. Yeah, because you got to remember, the way they see government, it's this top-down situation. The federal government is at the top and reigns supreme. And then the subordinate governments, the states and the counties and the cities, fall under that umbrella, and it's a hierarchy. That's not what the Constitution says. That's not how it was designed. So, well, then someone's got to be in charge, yeah, but the authorities are given to the different parts of government based on what it's about. I don't want the federal government determining whether or not there should be a stop sign at the corner up the street. That's a local issue, so it should be local government. The federal government was given authorities over federal things, external objects such as defense of the country, maritime law, trade with other countries, the border. Then state issues go to the states. What as Federalist 45, James Madison writes this nicely, and he says for things that are involve the internal order and welfare, or not, improvement, internal order and improvement of the state, like such as state roads within the state, such as any other thing that has to do within the state. That's a state issue. In other words, if it's not a 10th Amendment, if it's not given to the federal government, it's not prohibited in states, it's a state authority. And then as you go down with government, then the authority is going to be based on whether or not it's a local issue. Your city is not deciding whether or not the state should have a pipeline go through it. The city's worried about city stuff. The county is worried about county stuff. The state takes care of state stuff. The federal government takes care of federal stuff. It's not even supposed to even care about state stuff. So anyway, general welfare clause, the Congress, knowing there was no authority, said, well, it's for the general welfare of the country, general welfare clause. And James Madison says, that's not what we meant. When we wrote that, that's not what we meant. If that is what the general welfare clause means, then Congress can do anything it wants. Then why have a limited government if you allow the government to do anything it wants in the name of general welfare? That's essentially what he writes.
Mm-hmm.
That it is a condition that is met. You can see it the way it's worded right here in Article 1, Section 8. It's a condition. You know what? We're going to tax so that we can take care of our debts, our common defense, and the general welfare of the country. What does general welfare mean? It means a general condition of all's well. That's met because they're taking care of what they got to take care of. That's the point of the general welfare clause. My favorite is, I think it was Conlon that said this. He said, well, we could do this because of the good and welfare clause. That was my favorite. What in the hell is the good and welfare clause? I paid it up. But the general welfare clause is not supposed to be. And now, I'm going to point this towards Warhamster first.
Okay.
Guarantee you he knows the answer. Hey, take a guess, Warhamster, on who was the founding father that first tried to use this idea of the general welfare clause?
Probably some asshole like Hamilton.
Ding, 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 ding. Boy, you're smart, Warhamster. Alexander Hamilton. He's the one that created this use of the general welfare clause that way. He's the one that created implied powers. He's the one that centralized banking. You name it. If it was bad during the founding era, Alexander Hamilton probably had his hand in it. Just put it that way.
Well, and what I am coming to find out is everything that we are as a country post the war to prevent Southern independence is all basically it is Lincoln is essentially Hamilton 2.0.
Right.
But Hamilton on steroids.
Well, and Lincoln, you got to understand, not that I'm trying to give the man a break at all. If someone asked me, matter of fact, not too long ago, hey, who do you think the president in history was that caused the most damage to the Constitution? I'm like, well, that's easy, but I ain't going to tell you. Who do you think it is? And he says the usual suspects, Obama, Carter, Johnson, Roosevelt, Woodrow Wilson, the usual suspects. I said, I don't know, Abraham Lincoln. And his reaction was exactly this. Really? And it shocked him. Well, because you understand, not that, once again, I'm not letting him off the hook at all, is Abraham Lincoln was a lawyer. He went through law school at the tail end of John Marshall's time as Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. So what do you think they were teaching in the law schools? The John Marshall way of judicial review and things like that.
Mm-hmm. So I have a question for you, Doug.
And the idea of a firm union. It must be held together no matter what, even if it takes military occupation.
Mm-hmm. So Doug, my question is, if we ever get an Article 5 convention, is it worth looking at the general welfare clause and probably redefining it?
Clarifying the language? Sure.
Exactly. Okay.
Absolutely. I agree with that. Clarifying the language of that, clarifying the language of the elastic clause, as they like to call it, which is it's the tail end of Article 1, Section 8, and we'll get to it, the necessary and proper clause, or clarifying the language of the citizenship clause there in 14th Amendment. A lot of these things. But anyway, so let's continue. So Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises. Those are other kinds of taxes, import taxes, export taxes, so on and so forth, to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. And notice that the word general is lowercase, welfare is capitalized. Welfare is a key word there. Welfare being the state of all's good. What kind of condition of all's good? Well, a general condition. It's just a describer. That's all it is. All right. But all duties, imposts, and excises shall be uniform throughout the United States. In other words, we're not going to sit here and say, well, you know what? If you bring your goods into the Boston port, and actually they get into this in the Article 1, Section 9 also, we're going to charge you a higher import tax than if you brought it in through the LA port. No, they're supposed to be uniform. The same. So that way there's no preferential treatment. There's no privilege.
Well, you get preferential treatment to some or negative treatment to some states. You might actually get some secession.
Yeah, we don't want to do that. It's funny because when people think of secession, they think that when the states seceded for the War of Northern Aggression, that was the first time states had ever seceded. Well, I tell you what, man, I love talking about this stuff with you guys because you guys get it. The audience is like, what? Well, some of the people in the audience are probably like, that's good stuff, guys. But anyway, that was the first time there was a threat of secession.
Let me say something about that. Yeah, guys, it's Warhamster and Doug and I go back with Doug a long time, and I only go back with Warhamster a little bit. But I go back with Warhamster vicariously through Doug because they've known each other for a long time. So when I met
Warhamster as a brother from another mother,
when I met Warhamster, I mean he almost immediately skyrocketed into somebody that I talk to on basically a daily basis.
Yeah, we made up for lost time. We made up, dude. We made up for lost time really quick. Well, Doug, Ron actually answers his phone. I don't get his voicemail all the time like I do with yours.
Well, the point I'm trying to make is that we love this stuff. I mean, we eat it up, and so when we talk about it, it's like it's like girls talking about clothes, or boys or whatever. It's just we love talking about this stuff, and we get call it crazy, but we really enjoy this, and so that's why we kind of light up when we're around each other. So
I hope Dog is in there throwing around some Jefferson quotes.
I hope that our enthusiasm translates in the product that we're giving you guys, because so much of this stuff is so important to really understand. And Doug, one of the universal things that I hear from people, and I'm sure you hear this as well, when people find out how far away we are from the Constitution, they get angry.
Oh yeah. I warn my classes. I tell them that the more you learn from me, you're not going to just be more educated. You're going to be angry. Now, here's the question: what are you going to do with that anger?
Right.
The three classes that I filled in when Doug was out of town, and I gave little short lectures for the class. One of the things I told him, I go, this is not a happy story. I'm telling you about the history of money and the finance and banking. This is not a feel-good story, and it's not. There's no.
It really isn't.
No, it's not a happy ending type of story, or at least not yet.
No, there will be a happy ending. It's just there's going to be a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in the process.
Yeah, we have a bit of work to do.
I always feel like my shirt winds up crooked on me when I'm.
Where's the Dr. Pepper, Doug?
I have the Dr. Pepper.
Where is it?
I have two of them actually. I have this one.
And then it wouldn't be.
I have this one
in reserve. I wouldn't be a show without you having a Dr. Pepper. I just want to make sure.
And of course, I've got the olives. And of course, I've got the
pistachios.
Gotta have the pistachios.
The
All right.
political disaster.
Pistachios to me are like jelly beans were to Ronald Reagan. I'm telling you. All right, let's get back on target here. You guys. See, I gotta grab the steering wheel out of your hands every once in a while, but we're heading for a cliff, folks. But don't worry, I saved the day. You can thank me later. All right. I have a horrible sense of humor, but or at least that's what my wife tells me. I think I'm funny. But anyway, all right. So then the next clause I want to talk about, you upset about the fact they can tax. The Congress shall have the power to borrow money on the credit of the United States. That's right. Having a debt is constitutional. Now, that said, when you read what the founders had to say about debt, the general attitude by most of them, except for maybe Hamilton, I'll get to Hamilton in a moment, is that the only time there should be debt is because of war. Because war is don't laugh, war hamster. I know this is funny to you when I say it. It's supposed to be an unexpected expenditure. Yeah, it's not unexpected. That's why I warned him about laughing. But nonetheless, it's supposed to be this unexpected expenditure. So you got to borrow money real fast because you got to, build up your forces or whatever. That's really the only time they expected borrowing to be necessary, because you're supposed to, just like anybody's checkbook, have money before you spend it.
Oh, novel idea.
All right. Now, that said, when it came to the taxation and the borrowing, Jefferson had a lot of comments about that. One of them was that if ever the government gets to the point where it directly taxes the people, there will be no limit to how much it taxes. Think about that. Number two, Jefferson said that a future generation should not have to pay the debt of the past generations.
Yeah, if somebody ran on that campaign slogan today, you'd get the millennial vote overnight, because we are not giving them a good deal.
They're feeling pretty hopeless over what they're getting. Now, Alexander Hamilton believed that debt was not only a good thing, but he argued that our debt should never stop. It should be perpetual, because if we, and I'm not kidding, this was his argument, if we have a perpetual debt, the states will be less likely to secede because they will feel obligated to pay their portion before they leave.
I think that was accurately portrayed in the miniseries John Adams.
Yeah,
when they were sitting there at the table, and he's like, "Yeah, we need to have a debt."
Yeah, John Adams. I'm actually going to watch it again this weekend. Last time I watched it was years ago, shortly after it had come out. But I'm more mature as a constitutionalist. So I want to go through it again, see, because I thought it was pretty historically accurate last time. I have a feeling I'm going to be able to pick a few things out that wasn't so much now.
Mm-hmm.
You're the second person today, by the way.
I'm glad you're doing that, because I have wondered about the constitutionality of how accurate it was.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's probably a lot of Hollywood licensing done in that. But at the same time, I think there's actually done some pretty. They did well by history.
You're talking about the license to their artistic,
doing things that are better for the screen, than making them so that they're not necessarily historically accurate, but people will understand it better.
See, the film, like I said, came across pretty close. But now that said, let me say this about Adams, and we'll get back to what we're reading. John Adams was an incredible revolutionary. I love him as a revolutionary. I love most of his quotes. And after his presidency, and when he eventually became friends with Jefferson again, he's a pretty sharp dude. He's got some great things he had to say. But his presidency and the short time after it, he hung out with Hamilton more than he hung out with Jefferson. and you can tell. And as president, he was signing some really crappy stuff, some very unconstitutional stuff. And so while I want to be fond of him, his presidency is definitely a black spot in his participation in American history. All right, let's continue because the next one's really big. Now, notice that as we read through Article 1, Section 8, at the beginning of each clause is the word to. What comes before that is the Congress shall have power, but they only put it in the very first clause. They didn't want to write it over and over and over. So when I read this, you'll hear me say the Congress shall have power to. I'm not adding words. I'm just putting in there so it's easier to understand as we're going through it. If I just went to, I think it may lose a few people. So I purposely read, or I'm sorry, add that extra part that needs to be there. So Congress shall have power to regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states and with the Indian tribes. Now, the Indian tribes are foreign nations, that makes sense. Regulate commerce, excuse me, is our central government. And so they're going to have commerce with other countries, other nations, and the Indians also being, another sovereignty. So trade with them makes sense. But it also says to regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states. Prior to the Constitution, commerce between the states was like it would be between countries. There were tariffs, heavy taxation, heavy rules. Each of the states had protectionist type laws in place. They were trying to protect their manufacturing, and commerce between the states didn't move too well. In Article 4, with the equal, geez Louise, the full faith and credit clause, thank you. It's saying, hey, you guys are now a country. You're not going to charge tariffs on each other. You're not going to play these games with each other. We're a country. So you guys are going to trade with each other without anything being in the way as easily as possible, because now we're all the same country. But if there's a problem, if there's a dispute, be it between the states or between persons of different states, the federal government can get involved. Remember the ensure domestic tranquility thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they use the word regulate here. Now, regulate is one of my favorite words in the Constitution to talk about. I have this big, giant, fat, green dictionary that's actually on the shelf behind me. You can't see it because my body's in the way. And it's the 1828 Webster's Dictionary. It's the first English dictionary of the, or American dictionary of the English language, should I say. Our language immediately was beginning to depart from the British version here and there. We had terms we were using, ways of explaining things that were different. So Noah Webster felt that an American dictionary, rather than the Oxford Dictionary, would be a very important thing. So he created one. And he even wrote in one of his essays about that dictionary that one of the reasons was so that people could read the Constitution better. And so in this dictionary, you look up the word regulate, or regulated is what the word it's under. And then you compare it to today's dictionary, and here's what you find. When you read a dictionary, the definitions are put in order. There's definition 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. The first one typically is the most commonly used, or the most accurate in what people believe or what it should be in the sense of definition. So, for example, if you look up red, the first thing is not going to be something like, the common color used in communist flags. It's going to be a color, because that's the most important. That's the most used. It's a color. Mm-hmm. All right. So now you pull out today's dictionary, you look up regulate or regulated, and what it will say is control or restrictions by rule of law. In other words, using law to control or restrict is to regulate. And that's our most common thought. We hear regulate and, the federal government's going to regulate this. Oh, man, they're going to really restrict it with their rules. That's our first thought. The law and the rules, it's this restrictive thing. The second and third most common in today's dictionary have to do with flow and have to do with weights and measures. You turn on your hose, you turn it off, you are regulating the flow of the water. If you put sugar in your tea, you are regulating the sweetness of your tea, and so forth. Then the fourth, or least commonly used, it says to put in good order. Now you go to the 1828 dictionary, and what you'll see is a different order. To control or restrict by rule of law is the fourth or last one. At the top is weights and measures and flow, and then the second one is to put in good order. Well, to put in good order makes sense because think about the word regulate. You've got this regula, regula, as a part of that word. You know what word it shares that part with? Regular. Those two words have the same root, the same common. If you go into I can't remember what's called, the branches of language, and you get into where the roots of words are and all that. Regular and regulate come from the same root, from the same common ancestor, so to speak, when it comes to language. So to regulate then would be to make regular or to put in good order. Now, not only do we see this as the more common definition in the 1828 dictionary, but you can also tell that's what they meant just by using critical thinking. Boy, that's something we haven't heard of in a long time.
What's that?
Critical thinking. Use our brain here.
You mean
to really look at
what are
the
you saying?
Constitution.
What are you saying, that we need to think for ourselves?
Yeah, I know, it's a shocker.
I'm appalled at this.
Oh man,
I'm out of here.
I'm working on some stuff about critical
I'm out of
thinking
here
right now. Yeah,
I'm out of
just
there.
shut up and do what you're told, all right? But anyway,
Critical race theory.
Yeah, critical race theory is something I'm actually getting ready to tackle on a project I'm doing, and critical thinking ties into it. But anyway,
you better go quick before they change the name of it. Seems like they do that weekly.
I know.
I think they already did, didn't they?
Yeah. Now it's called Sugar and Lollipops, isn't it? No. Anyway, sorry. See, this is what happens when you get three friends together. They're all three can be sarcastic jackholes. Say it nicely. And then they get me off track, and then they go, "Hey, man, you better get back to the."
Quit blaming us for your shortcomings.
So the word regulate, I got to think about it now. In the new dictionary, getting back to critical thinking. So, for example, regulate appears 3 times in the Constitution. Here, we regulate commerce between the states. Further down, it says to regulate the value of the money, that Congress has the authority to coin money and regulate the value thereof. And then your favorite, a well-regulated militia. So let's go to a well-regulated militia. Just use a little critical thinking here. Devil Dog, you're exactly right. They say squirrel and it messes me up. Squirrel! Yeah. Anyway. So let's look at well-regulated militia for context here and a little critical thinking. So we have our different definitions: flow, weights and measures, to control or restrict through the rule of law. And when they say rule of law, they don't mean God's rule of law, they mean theirs. Mm-hmm. And to put in good order. So let's test each of them. Does a well-regulated militia mean one that flows well? No, that's for things like liquid and things that. Weights and measures? No. So we can toss those two aside. So now we got 2 left. Control or restrict through government rule of law, or to put in good order. Well, let's look at the history of our militia. During the American Revolution, that war for independence, was the militia heavily regulated by the government law, or or need to be, or was there a question about whether or not they were in good order? Well, they weren't in very good order. Obviously, back then, they didn't want government controlling too much. But when you look at the order of our militia, it wasn't in very good order, was it? We had Martha Washington darning socks for these guys because they had holes in their socks if they had socks. So the militia was not in good order. And, from Benjamin Franklin's point of view, if it wasn't for divine providence, we would have never pulled it off.
Mm-hmm.
So a well-regulated militia, what they desire, a well-regulated militia, must come from that. So either they're saying we want a more government-controlled militia, or we want one that's in good order when we say well-regulated militia. Well, just using your critical thinking, obviously what they're saying is we want a militia that's in good order, because it wasn't in good order before. We don't want government controlling things. So therefore, regulate in that case must be the definition in the dictionary they're using, must be the one that says to put in good order or to make regular. If that's the case in that one, would not then the same definition apply to the others? So coin money and regulate the value thereof, to have that value be in good order, to be regular, what they want, without it fluctuating too much, without there being these boom bust cycles. So, right? Okay, now we get back to commerce. Now, I know what you've heard about the Commerce Clause. Well, Doug, they say if it crosses state lines, then automatically that gives the federal government the authority to regulate it. I know what they say, and they're wrong. Because what was meant was to regulate commerce here is then to put it in good order. When do you put something in good order? When it's not. So if it's already in good order, are you needed to put something in good order? No. Therefore, what this clause is saying is that when commerce is flowing between the states, as long as it's flowing and it's in good order, there's no authority for the federal government because it's in good order. It doesn't need to be put in good order. It's none of their business. But if that order is interrupted and there's a problem because of state versus state, or a person versus a state, or two persons versus each other from different states, and there's a dispute, now it's not in good order. Hey, federal government, here's your cue. Come in, be a mediator. To mediate,
So
not to control.
let me ask you then, where do you put FAA in on that?
Well, first of all, it's an unconstitutional authority. Now, the regulatory agency shouldn't exist.
Okay, so how do and
because planes are crossing state lines doesn't mean the federal government has the authority to regulate. Now, hang on a second.
Right.
I'm not saying that the federal government ought not to. Should there be some type of standard that all the states agree to? Oh, absolutely. Should it be something offered by the federal government? Perhaps.
So
but there's no authority in the Constitution for it.
So what I'm asking is that how does that manifest? How do you manifest? Well,
because they're saying, remember, they're and when I say they and there, you know who I'm talking about.
I get it.
Right,
I get it.
All right. So their definition is if it crosses state lines, we get to regulate it, meaning we get to make rules about it. That's it. That's all they know. Because the word regulate means what we say it means, not what the founders meant.
And I'm not disputing that. I guess what I'm asking is that under what authority is something like the FAA created to regulate that particular industry?
Because that industry crosses state lines, they decided they can make the rules, and so they created that regulatory agency to carry out the rules put out there by Congress because they believe they have the authority because it crosses states lines. Simple as that.
Okay.
That's the simplest way to explain it. That basically, it's like Reagan. Remember Reagan? If it moves, tax it. If it doesn't move, subsidize it. Mm-hmm. They believe they should have a hand in everything anyway. But the problem is
Well, I no. So I guess let me ask the question in a different way.
Okay.
What I'm looking for is how would a regulatory agency like the FAA come into existence in a constitutional manner?
Well, there would need to be an amendment.
Okay, so what you're saying is
Yeah,
it would be a
because there
constitutional
is no
amendment.
okay. Let's back up. Let's get into fundamentals. I'm going to be the baseball coach now, okay, kids, and
Well,
we're
that's
going to get back
fine.
to fundamentals. Fundamentals are, in order for the federal government to have an authority, it must be expressly enumerated. They are saying no, it doesn't have to be expressly enumerated, because if it crosses state lines, whether it's enumerated or not, we get it. But my definition, based on the founders' definitions of regulate, is no, federal government has no authority to do anything to regulate, and that they can't even be involved unless there is a dispute. Then they come in to mediate, then their job is done. So and we have to ask ourselves a question now, should the federal government have an FAA where they are involved in creating common rules for across the entire industry?
Well,
Because
for airspace, it's
for
rules.
airspace or
Let's just
whatever,
say
right?
rules for airspace. Rules
Should
for
they?
airspace. Yeah.
I suppose it's not a bad idea, but since it's not enumerated in the Constitution, pardon my language, basically using the Commerce Clause to get that authority is chicken shit. Since
I don't
since
disagree.
you want it to be expressly enumerated in the Constitution. Well, how do you expressly enumerate a power in the Constitution? It's got to be in the Constitution. Well, if it's not in the Constitution, how do you get it there? Through amendment.
Through an amendment. Okay.
So, in
That makes
order
sense.
for the FAA to be truly constitutional, the authority that the government shall have the authority to make law regarding aviation must be a new amendment added to the Constitution.
Gotcha. Okay. That's what I was looking for. And
they were smart enough to do it with alcohol.
yeah, that's kind of what I was looking for, is how do things like that become how do you implement that in a constitutional fashion?
See, we are so
every
head deep into this garbage that they do. It's hard to even see the air above.
every regulatory agency is unconstitutional.
Almost every one of them.
Which ones would you say would be constitutional?
Border Patrol.
Keep it. Is that a regulatory agency, or is that a law enforcement agency?
Well, it's technically listed as a regulatory agency. It is a law enforcement agency.
Well, it's CBP.
But it was, at least, I don't know if it is anymore. It used to be just another agency, but I think now they've moved it under the DOJ.
Wasn't it Department of Homeland Security?
I think it's
Is it under Homeland Security? Yeah, it used to be its own regulatory agency, but anyway, that would be one of them.
Okay.
I mean, the problem is, I think I've got more fingers on one hand.
But see,
constitutional agency, so you're onto something.
But see, that's not necessarily an agency, because Border Patrol is implementing.
What do you call someone who works for the Border Patrol and has the badge? He is a Border Patrol what?
Border Patrol he's an agent. I get that.
Right, because he's a member of an agency.
I get it, but what I'm saying is that he is they are enforcing law that was passed by Congress.
You're right, but
they're not
so is all of them. So are the other agencies. That's what they're supposed to do. Yeah.
Okay. No, I respectfully disagree with that. They may be sort of, but the alcohol ATF or DEA,
they are enforcing. They are executing laws put in place by Congress.
But do they? But so do they? Do they submit things to Congress to make law?
They make requests. Yes.
So. Okay, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah,
I don't
all agencies per se.
I don't want to get bogged down into this.
Under departments, you have your agencies and But
Doug, before you go further,
we'll just stick a Warhamster on it, and he'll educate you next week.
Doug, before you go further, can I take you back a paragraph? I got you. You skipped over my favorite typo in the whole Constitution: to establish uniform rule of naturalization.
We haven't gotten there yet.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah, we're still on commerce.
Sorry, I was looking down there when we talked about.
Yeah, I mentioned money only because the word regulated is in there.
Gotcha.
But
Are we going to have enough time to finish Commerce Clause, or do you want to
no,
touch on this?
we got enough time to finish Commerce Clause. We're not going to get to the rest. We'll get to the rest next week. Commerce Clause is such a big discussion. It always is. So when it comes to commerce, I'm sorry.
Because we got started late. We're going to touch on this next week. I think we should just.
Conservative Cowboy, real quick. I'm going to give a real quick answer because he has a great question. Doug, according to Constitution, do states need U.S. congressional approval to secede? And it's not succeed, it's secede, SECEDE, from the Union, or can they do it by themselves with a majority of the people of that state voting to secede? Secession is not mentioned in the Constitution, therefore the 10th Amendment applies, which means that it is a state authority. And why would they need to ask congressional approval? They're leaving.
Well, it's supposed to be a voluntary union.
Right. It's a voluntary union. They are just a member of a union. If they want to leave, they can leave. And someone says, well, where in the Constitution say that? Nowhere. That's the point. 10th Amendment says that if it's a federal authority, it's listed and it's enumerated as an authority. If it's a state authority, it's not given as a federal authority, and it's not prohibited to the states. In other words, it's not in the Constitution. Therefore, it's their authority.
Well, if you go back and you look at the attitudes towards secession pre-Civil War, I think several of the New England states said on multiple occasions, they talked about seceding. And
three of them right before the War of 1812 over economic reasons.
And Thomas Jefferson was like, well, if you want to secede, then go for it.
See ya.
Bye.
Good luck on your own.
Don't let us let us
right.
Don't let the door hit you with a good Lord split you. Bye.
Yeah, while Trump was president, I was praying that California would secede because I wanted then all the conservative counties to then secede from California and reapply as a state back into the union.
Mm-hmm. I like this. I like the idea of living in San Diego, Arizona. It makes sense because half of Arizona lives here every summer, anyways.
Yeah, there's a lot of folks in Crescent City, California, would like to say that they live in Crescent City, Idaho.
Yep.
Greater Idaho. All right. Anyway, wrap up on Commerce Clause. So the Commerce Clause, then, if their job is to regulate commerce, in other words, to put it in good order, the only time the federal government has authority is when it's not in good order. So dispute, to mediate, to be a referee, not to control, not to dictate, but to act as a referee. Now, if you've ever been in mediation, it's a very interesting thing. I've been in mediation once, and it was very interesting. So the mediator walks in your room, sits down, says, okay, so here's what the other side is offering. What do you think? Well, mediator, I agree with most of it, but I don't like the fact that this is not included, and I don't like the fact that that is included. So how about you go back and you tell them, I'm willing to consider their proposal if you remove that and you add this. So the mediator then goes to the other room, sits down. Okay, this is what he says. And he does that. He's going back and forth until a mutual agreement is agreed upon by the two parties. That's how a mediator acts. That's what the federal government is supposed to be, through Congress first, then the courts, when there's a dispute between the states. That's what regulate commerce among the several states means, to put it in good order if it's not. So anytime something crosses state lines, they're not supposed to automatically just start making rules and regulations and laws. That's not the authority of the federal government. Okay, any questions, Mr. Warhamster or Ron?
No, we're good.
Okay, and chat room. And I am enjoying this more because I like being able to see the chat room. Now, I will make a real quick mention of something else, and then I got to get out the door really fast because I got a meeting prior to my class in San Juan Capistrano with someone about like a half hour for that class starts. So I got to jam the moment it's over, which is in a minute. There's a lot of talk about the Convention of States, and then there was a mention earlier about that it takes 38 for, or 34 to call a convention and 38 to ratify. And I didn't see whether or not there was a long discussion about 34 states convened, but I'm here to tell you that's already been met. The Convention of States, the organization, and God bless them and Mark Meckler, I'm glad they're in this game, but they're sitting here saying, well, gosh, folks, we still need to get like 2 more states or whatever. No. There's been over 750 applications by 49 of the states. They don't expire. Over the last couple hundred years, there's been over 750 applications to have a convention of states by 49 states. The only state that's not in that list is Oklahoma. They were, but they rescinded it. They had one, and they rescinded it, so it's 49. But over 750 applications by 49 states. We don't need to get to 34. We're there, and then some. Call it already.
Congress shall call a convention for proposing amendments.
Right. You know what shall means?
Not may, not should, or it is should. They have to.
No,
do
it must happen.
Shall means it's mandatory.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, there's no ambiguity.
So they're violating the Constitution by not calling the convention.
All right, guys. Well, it is 4:01, and I apologize that we got started a little bit late today.
Yeah, it's my fault. I got caught in traffic, and I left lunch meeting later than I should have.
Yeah. So, but we will pick up. We will finish Article 1, Section 8 next week.
Finish? I hope. I doubt.
We're gonna try.
We will definitely. But we'll get into immigration. We'll get into banking and money. Oh, see, that's why it's going to take a while. That one right there is probably going to be half.
So we may not finish Article 1, Section 8 next week.
Yeah, and if you wonder what this is, this is my note. I don't have a notepad, so I put notes on my hand. I'm like, who was it got in trouble for that? They made a lot of fun of him for. Was it Palin? I think it was.
Yeah, that sounds
for
right.
writing notes in her hand. I'm like, I do it too. Leave her alone, jerks.
Hey.
But anyway. Yeah, so matter of fact, I'm glad I'm looking at it because it's one of the reminders. I got to grab my board and my pins for the next class. They're not in my truck. I appreciate, I enjoy. Thank you for being here, everybody. God bless you. Yeah, we'll definitely be here next week. Continue through Article 1, Section 8. I'm figuring we will get down to the military. That's probably where we'll leave off next week. But man, I mean, immigration, money, Postal Service, the Copyright Office, Patent Office, and war. What war is all about, and all that stuff, and piracies and the military, all of that. I think we'll get into next week. We'll probably stop where it says to provide and maintain a navy. That's probably what we'll get through, just from my experience in the past. That's probably about an hour's worth. And then we'll wrap up Article 1, Section 8 the following week, and then we'll really get moving. But thank you, Ron. I appreciate it. I like this better because, first of all, they get to see all of us at once.
Yep.
And then you can, like, make one window bigger if you want and all that while I'm talking, which is cool. I mean, it sucks because now I can't, like, scratch certain parts of my body, because, you're all looking at me. But, hey, I'll just pick my nose later.
This is a much better platform.
I do like this. Thank you for setting it up.
We do need to get you fixed up, though, your background.
Yeah, I've got it on my login. I'll get it fixed up. We'll get it done. But appreciate you guys. We'll see you next week. Thanks for being here.
Excellent, guys.
And
Thanks
God
for showing up.
you.
And by the way, just want to let you know I'm going to start putting there was a poll, a question ability to ask in the group. And I posed it, and I'm going to ask everybody every week to participate in it. If you're new to the class, and we had 37% of the people today were out of 48 votes said that they were new to the class.
Oh, very cool.
So
we actually got
since there's new people there, let me remind you, I have books. You can purchase them. You don't want to deal with Amazon? No problem. I've set up my own store, douglasvgibbs.com/store.
Basic Constitution must have for this class.
Yeah.
If you read this before the class, you're right with us.
Yeah, the Basic Constitution is the name of that book. My latest is called Creator. And what I'm working on right now is I'm gonna take on CRT and the 1619 project head on. with my
Excellent.
next book. So
Doug, you
anyway,
got-
God bless. I get off the door. See you guys next week. Love you. United
quick-
we stand. Combined we kick butt. God bless America, my friends. God bless you.
I just wanted to say, great with your sign off. We got up to 71 people on the stream tonight.
All right,
that's
very
pretty
good.
That doesn't eclipse the record, which was about 130 when we talked about the Second Amendment last time.
Yeah, nothing like guns to attract people to the show. Yeah.
But anyway, I digress. All right, guys, thanks for showing up today. Appreciate it. And Doug, safe travels, and we will see y'all
Thank you,
next
sir.
week.
See you Thursday, Doug.
All right, see you then.